Hey guys, it's Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time around we had Underworld. Do you remember what happened?
No, I remember vaguely we had speculated that it might be about Greek mythology, but it wasn't. No.
Yeah. Alright, if I can try to remember, because it's been a while since we last did this. The Doctor and Leela ended up on a ship that was trying to find the rest of their people, the Minions. That was it. Who were this race of people who were benefited by the Time Lords and then kicked them out later. They found them. However, they were living in the core of a planet and didn't know what space was. And there was this whole revolution, as always happens when Leela shows up.
Yeah, because didn't she start a revolution in the Sunmakers too?
Yeah, there's been many at this point. So they had to save them. There was the whole thing with the Oracle, which we speculated was just the ship's computer, and the Seers, I guess they were, which were just these weird cyborg-looking things, and then the actual people there. And they had to save them, and well, I guess they did. So, yeah. It's a whole lot of stuff, actually. And it's been quite a while since we watched that episode. Which, hilariously, that episode is going up today, of all days, on the day that we're recording this. So, that should give you a time frame of how long it's been for us. So, yeah. Today, we are on to The Invasion of Time, which is 6 parts. Oh. So, we'll be doing 3 today and 3 next week. So yeah, and this will round out season 15. So
wow,
yeah. So yeah, I don't really have anything else per se. However, you may have been able to catch it in the way that he's talking, but this one's sick. So
we opened a territorial Christmas Carol last Friday. We only had 2 performances, Friday and Saturday night. I have a massive head cold, just increasing amounts of mucus, and now it's gone down into my throat a little bit. Fortunately, it's not down in my lungs, so I'm not coughing stuff up. So I may be somewhat quiet during this particular watch, but you might also notice that my voice is about an octave lower than it normally is. So we'll go from there.
Yeah, so, and if he has to blow his nose at any point, I will cut that out. I promise you I will edit that audio out, because it gets pretty loud. When he blows his nose, it's like a chorus of trumpets, honestly. So, but yeah, anywho, is that it? I guess that's pretty much it.
I guess.
So, why don't we just go ahead and jump right into The Invasion of Time. Here we go.
Speed is vital, Doctor.
You promised complete control of the Time Lords.
You will have complete control.
But here in paragraph 4, subject...
Lawyers quibbles, Doctor.
Well, I've heard that before. Well, almost got me killed once, but of course you know that.
Sign it.
Complete control.
My word.
Well, I've signed so many things. One more won't make any difference.
But it will, Doctor. It will.
And the question is, did he sign it, the Doctor?
I'm honored to be allowed to say.
Only 2 Time Lords are absent from their duties here on authorized research missions. You will find their molecular codes...
Yes, sir. Neither match. I've checked.
So who are the other 2 Time Lords?
Where's Leela?
Immersed, Master.
What?
Totally immersed in H2O, Master.
Fine time to take a bath.
Oh, jeez. It's the first time we've seen the swimming pool in the TARDIS.
It looks like a Roman bath.
Gentlemen, I'm delighted to be back on Gallifrey.
Well, now you know something's wrong.
Halt!
Right, you lead.
No. You follow me.
Right.
I'll just go down the same corridor again.
I claim the inheritance of Rassilon. I claim the titles, honor, duty, and obedience of all colleges. I claim the presidency of the Council of Time Law.
You don't dispute my claim, then?
No, only the arrogance with which you present it.
Borusa, how you used to bore me with your interminable lectures on responsibility and duty.
Which obviously failed. You make me regret teaching you anything at all.
You taught me nothing.
Now, Barusa, that's a new actor, though, isn't it?
It looks like it, yeah.
The council ratified my appointment.
Without a president, the council can ratify nothing.
There was no president. And the president-elect was elsewhere.
But my point is...
Barusa!
Obvious.
So the term is off his rocker, isn't it?
Doctor could be more useful. He understands discipline.
No discipline, that's always been the trouble.
He understands the dangers.
The greatest honor Gallifrey can offer.
Then I shall not let him down.
Leela!
Are there any duties for me?
Duties?
Yes, rights I must observe, things to do, things
No,
not to
there's nothing for you to do. But, Leela, if you could avoid killing anyone, it would help.
do. I will try.
Yeah, but what's a ceremony without killing people?
Aren't you due for regeneration?
I believe I have wisdom in my ears.
Just so, Lord Sepa.
Cyclic burst. The answer may lie in the cyclic burst
You know,
ratio.
Savar, pretty good name. Gomer the Time Lord, not so great.
I believe Gomer was a biblical name in the Old Testament.
Yeah, Gomer Gimpson.
Accept, therefore, the sash of Rassilon.
Or the Rash of Sassalon.
Runs of Rassilon.
I love these pillows. Alright then. That was a weird start to the story. I mean, obviously, we understand why the Doctor is acting the way he is. He's clearly doing something under duress for whoever these people are and trying to get them into the Time Lord's matrix. Still weird. Still pretty weird. But obviously, we know the Doctor must have a plan for all of this.
Yeah.
So, it would be hilarious if, like, those things that we see aren't chairs. They're just, like, they're exactly the same front to back, just with a face on it. So, they're just these weird rock creatures. It must also be nice for Leela to look around and be like, oh, I'm not the one in the dumbest costume now. So... But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in that one. Now they mentioned... So, Barusa is obviously a new regeneration for him. Which, I wonder if that was specifically because they couldn't get the other actor back, or they were just like, well, you know, time has passed, you got a new regeneration or something.
He does look very similar, though. The other guy was a little more thin.
Yeah. Now, I would imagine that the Castellan we saw here is not supposed to be the same Castellan we saw.
Yeah.
Because that guy was also sort of low level, too. So
Had kind of a Germanic accent, if I recall.
Yeah. Which, I mean...
Eastern European.
Yeah. Which, I mean, if he regenerated into this new, younger body, accents do change with regeneration, so... Which is strange. It's strange, because when I think about it, it's like, you know... When you have actors like Peter Capaldi, and he's, you know, very, you know, sort of overtly Scottish, I guess. But then you get other Scottish actor David Tennant, but you don't allow him to do his Scottish accent. But I don't know. Anyway, but that's beside the point. So yeah. So I'd imagine it's a different Castellan. It'd be cool if we actually found the old Castellan that we had, and he was the same actor. I really like that guy. So he honestly was sort of our in-between companion between Sarah Jane and Leela.
Yeah.
But yeah, but other than that, I don't really have a lot to go on from this first episode.
It's very intriguing, and we've got very few clues as to what's actually going on.
Yeah. I don't know, it's such a strange thing that it's like, you definitely need to know Gallifrey going into this. Like, I don't know why, I was just kind of thinking about it, like, you know, if you just, like, watch this, you don't know what's going on, you know? Like, at least we know that, okay, something's, you know, coerced the Doctor into doing this, and obviously he should have some sort of a plan, but it's just such a strange start to it.
Yeah.
So, and also the TARDIS has a pool, so.
I'm trying to remember what the Romans call those baths. I know they had a frigidarium, which was the cold pool. They had a tepidarium, which was the lukewarm pool. And I think they had a caldarium, which was the hot pool. And you go into the hot pool to open up your pores, then they use the strigil to scrape all the oil and dirt off of them, and then you can go down to the warm pool and then the cold pool, which closes your pores back up and you're clean for a couple of days. Yeah, pardon this, I'm trying not to drip.
Well.
Matrix rejects the candidate. Guard, seize him. No one may lay hands on the President. The Matrix has rejected him. He is the Matrix now. It cannot reject him. Surgeon General.
It's like Palpatine. He is the Matrix.
I suggest you cut off your communications, prohibit visitors, and keep all your tedious bureaucratic problems to yourself.
He is young yet, Chancellor, impetuous, I know, but I still believe his hearts are in the right places.
You know, we've definitely seen that guy in some other episode.
Yeah.
I don't know how well those go together.
Even the sonic screwdriver won't get me out of this one.
Who are you talking to?
Breaking the fourth wall.
I have a problem. There is absolutely no point in having another door in the room if you don't have another key. QED. What? Latin. QED. Latin. There's nothing more useless than a lock with a voice print.
Just needed the password.
Now for the search of Rassilon.
I'm with him.
This is slightly turning into a Monty Python sketch, I'm not gonna lie.
But boosted till it fails to do so.
Couldn't have put it better myself, Master.
I don't think you could.
Agreed. Possibility of your explanation being better than mine, less than 1%.
What? You are the most insufferably arrogant, overbearing, patronizing being tin.
Master?
Nothing. Someone once said that to me once.
Correction, Master. Several people have said that about you.
Thank you. Break the transduction field.
Man, they got tiny chairs in this place.
You must be that alien everyone's looking for.
I am Leela.
I'm called Rodan. And please put that
Like
thing
the
away
kaiju?
and attach yourself. Nothing can get past the transduction barrier.
K9, destroy the transduction barriers. Not yet. Can I have a few moments to get away, please?
Affirmative.
And will you get off my foot, please?
Affirmative.
Thank you.
Seems to be stuck in
Well, it's nice to see that there is a woman on Gallifrey.
Notably, we thought she was in your capsule.
There's no one in my capsule.
Well, she came this way.
It is absolutely vital that girl is caught and put outside a citadel. Absolutely vital.
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 Right away, sir. Guards, follow
I guess
me.
if there's going to be an invasion of some sort, he's trying to protect her. Poor guy. Just doing his job.
Just stunned.
Gentlemen, this is no ordinary meeting. I am privileged to introduce to you your new masters.
You know, and he obviously will have a plan to fix all of this. I bet he is slightly having fun messing with the Time Lords, though.
Yeah.
So, alrighty. So that's part 2. Still kind of odd. Still kind of just the writing of it is odd, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
So, and hey, we finally, because that was the thing last time when we went to Gallifrey, was are there no women on this planet? There's at least one. So that's something. And obviously a non-Gallifreyan has come to Gallifrey as well. So it's interesting stuff. I will say, because in previous episodes, when I thought, oh, well, maybe the Doctor in some instances maybe is a little too mean, I will say that does definitely play to his favor in this episode, because he has to play it up for Barusa and the Castellans. So yeah, all in all, it's still interesting, but I'm not sure about the strange aluminum foil bad guys that just showed up. So
you mean the aluminium foil?
I thought about that. Oh well.
My eyes are watering. And my nose is running.
Your palms are sweaty. Mom's spaghetti. Let's see if anyone gets that reference either.
I don't.
Meh. I barely get that reference, honestly.
Resistance is useless. The Vardans have more power than we have dreamed of and more knowledge than we can hope for.
Okay.
Have you carried out my instructions?
Regarding what? Supremacy?
The redecoration of my office.
The matter is in hand.
Aye. But is it finished?
I believe so.
Confirm it and meet me there within the hour.
Lead lined, obviously. These creatures can't get through lead.
You're very kind. That's very kind.
He's honestly taking up the role of the master.
Are the decorations complete?
As you can see.
Completely complete.
To the last detail.
No substitutes, no forgeries, no penny pinching.
They are the finest to be had in the whole Thesaurian Empire.
And this exquisite relief work, in pure lead?
As you can see.
Good. Then at last we can talk. Lord Barusa, you and the other Time Lords are singularly logical, You're also short on humor and imagination. You can't offer distractions as I can. What's for tea?
Tea. Genus Camilla in dry
I know what
form.
tea is.
Well, what's that got to do with the threat from the Vardans?
You're too single-minded. You're as transparent as good old-fashioned glass.
You're right. I wouldn't last a moment. My mind is too easy to read.
We'll put some lead in your hat and that'll work.
Until she gets to Outer Gallifrey.
That barbarian garden, how can she be safe there?
Well, that barbarian garden's her natural habitat. She's a huntress. Creature of instinct. Oh, dear.
I know. Awful.
Now can we rest? Yes. Yes, rest here. It was a stupid idea, was it, to leave the Citadel?
Oh, you'd rather be with the invaders?
No, you're quite right. It's got to be safer here.
So there are barbarians on Gallifrey. That's kind of weird.
Because if anything does happen, I would have to take over as president, and I have no wish to expose myself to the dangers of that position. For the moment.
I understand perfectly, sir.
Good. You will be suitably rewarded when the time comes.
It's a strange line of succession for that.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you regard yourself as acting vice president?
Oh, thank you, sir.
And you better make me a list of all Time Lords holding official positions. And let me know which ones you think are reliable.
Yes, of course, sir. And perhaps you'd like a list of all known troublemakers at the same time.
That's the stuff.
Commencing secondary B.
Excellent. Ah, Henry. I've got something for you. A surprise.
In the name of liberty and honor, I sentence you to death. Traitor.
Alrighty.
Can you pause?
That's alright. You go ahead. Oh, there it goes.
I'm back.
Alright. That is the first 3 parts of the Invasion of Time. All right. Well, at least interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff, definitely. And a lot more, I guess, technically, world building of Gallifrey. So.
Yeah, we still don't know who the aliens are. I mean, they're the Vardans, but we don't know what they obviously want to take over Gallifrey, but for what purpose, we don't know.
Yeah. And I'm glad at least that this apparently is not their true form. So it's good because it is one of those. I mean, honestly, I guess it's not the worst creature we've ever had. It's just sort of a strange. It's just some aluminum foil being dangled over a green screen and put in later. But I mean, and yeah, even in this season, we've had much worse alien creatures. But overall, they're okay. And a very interesting race that think they can conquer Gallifrey. Yeah. So, and use the Doctor. It's honestly, you would honestly think this would be something that the Master would do, because that's always the Master's thing. He teams up with an alien, and he would go against Gallifrey and everything. But using the Doctor specifically makes it very, very interesting. So, but yeah, so we have the Doctor assuming the mantle of the President of the Time Lords, which I always find it interesting that there's the Council of the Time Lords, which is all the Cardinals. Then there's the Chancellor, but then there's also the President, which is, I don't know, it's just sort of an interesting thing for that sort of government structure.
Yeah. Well, again, very similar to the Catholic Church, where you have the Pope, and you have essentially a Secretary of State, and then the Cardinals.
Yeah, so. But it definitely shows that the President is at the top, specifically, and above the Chancellor. So that's really interesting. And then we had everything. I mean, I don't have a ton of notes because a lot of it is, the Doctor sort of being off, but we understand why. This is obviously part of his plan to defeat the Vardans. But that's all really interesting. He expels Leela, and you come to realize that he's doing that to protect her. And it seems that he has told this plan to K9 in at least somewhat in full. And I would imagine that's also because you can't read a computer's mind, basically, unless you just hack the computer, I guess. So, but it makes sense. It definitely makes sense why he didn't tell Leela, and it's exactly as Barusa said. If Barusa would have had trouble, keeping the Vardans out of his thoughts, then Leela, it'd be impossible. Yeah. So that's interesting. And just the whole thing, I do like all the. It's such a weird mix of this sort of mystical kind of ceremonial, all this fancy getup and stuff, but then you kind of look at their politics and it's like, these are just humans in goofy robes, like they're not that different, honestly. Even though they've got the all the robes and the giant headpieces, and he's got the the sash and the rod, and then he got the crown and everything. So yeah, so all that's pretty interesting. Now, I'm not entirely sure, like, all the details of the invasion itself. Like, I mean, I understand that the Doctor is going in to, destroy these specific protections over Gallifrey. But part of that is they needed to get into the Matrix, which I guess that could just be, I don't fully understand the Gallifreyan Matrix. So, but that was interesting because that's the first part of it when they go through once he's connected to the Matrix. So, let's see here. And then we do, at the very least, again, this is the introduction of women being on Gallifrey. First with Rodan, and then with a couple of the barbarians, too.
And this is the first time we've heard that there are people on Gallifrey outside of the Time Lord Citadel.
Yeah, that's true, too. Because it is an interesting thing. One sort of, I guess it's a minor criticism that some people have with modern Doctor Who is that, for the most part, whenever the Doctor, brings up his species, he brings up the Time Lord specifically, but that's only just a faction, a group of these certain people on Gallifrey, but his actual species-ish is Gallifreyan. But yeah, so it's nice to see more of that outside.
There was kind of a hint back during Pertwee's era when he talked about living outside and going up the mountain to meet the wise man.
Yeah.
So we've had basic hints at it before, but never anything as concrete as this.
Right. So I would imagine that. I mean, yeah, because that does bring up. He said he had. I mean, you kind of just assume he just had like this normal house where he grew up, and sort of up the mountain was the old hermit under the tree who we eventually saw later, who was specifically also a Time Lord and regenerated and everything. So I guess the whole thing with the barbarians is they may be sort of building on what they set up with the hermit specifically. Yeah. So, and it's interesting to see. You definitely understand more of the Doctor because you see, the hermit under the tree, and you understand, okay, well, that's sort of where his more eccentric side comes in and his more wiser side. But you also see the more practical, smarter, logical side of the Doctor that comes from being taught by Barusa specifically. So all that is really interesting. Seeing, tiny bits of the Doctor's origin. So, or at least this origin for the Doctor. There's 20 others later. So, but yeah, so that's interesting. And the barbarians, that is the one thing though, because it's like, because it seemed like, there was the hermit who was up the mountain, and you would just assume that the Doctor grew up in a sort of normal-esque sort of place that would have been away from the Citadel, but then you have these barbarians, as they're called, but they seem to just be Time Lords who have left and gone back to nature, and they hunt and everything. So I don't know. And there's much later, there's an episode with the 10th Doctor where he's talking with the Master, actually, and the Master says, do you remember when we used to play in the fields at my father's farm and stuff? So I'm kind of getting it in my head that there was some more like rural, maybe agricultural side to Gallifrey that you just don't really see apart from the Citadel, But now we're seeing a bit more of that. But if you do that, because there is also, with all the robes and stuff, it's sort of I don't want to say it's specifically Greek or Roman-esque style, but doing that, it would kind of tie into that if, Gallifrey is sort of, this sort of Roman Empire analog in space, that, the Citadel would be the city of Rome itself, and the Doctor and the Master and the Hermit and the Barbarians are more just in the more rural parts of Italy, basically. So it's interesting. It's definitely interesting, and of course, do we count this? Do we count this as another revolution that Leela is starting? Just rousing them all to fight?
I thought there was an interesting bit there at the end where, when they got outside, I think the cinematographer must have used some kind of lens on it, because there really isn't a place in England that looks that yellowish. Yeah. So, they were obviously in some sand dunes on the beach somewhere, but I think there had to be some kind of special, not a special effect, but some kind of special lens that made it look quite a little bit more desert-like.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because later they would sort of stick with this whole... They sort of stick to a look that Gallifrey is a very orange planet. But this is sort of the first time we've seen that, because previously, like in The Deadly Assassin, it was just in the Citadel. We never really saw outside. Yeah. So, yeah, it's an interesting choice. Honestly, while I was thinking of that, the later interpretations of Gallifrey as being a more orangish kind of planet, I did also think of Breaking Bad every time they would go to Mexico, and they specifically tinted it like super yellow to show you visually that it is Mexico. Yeah. which has honestly become a bit of a meme in the Breaking Bad community, that I think there's actually videos where someone decolors it in order to just be a normal tint. So that's always interesting. But yeah, and it's, wouldn't you think about, the sort of rural, possibly, sort of agricultural society that would be on Gallifrey, that you kind of infer that the Doctor and the Master might have come from. But then you go to barbarians specifically, who, they've got the specific sort of, maybe, I guess, fur lining and everything, and they've got bows and arrows and stuff, and it's like, well, okay, why'd you go back to hunting specifically? And I'm curious now, what is there to hunt on Gallifrey? So, but I guess that would very much, again, sort of keeping in the sort of Roman Empire analog of it being the Roman Empire in space, that would be sort of the barbarians that would be more to the north that Caesar would have fought.
That's one of the things that I would talk about, is that once you started seeing large cities like Athens and Rome and Alexandria and places like that, the people who lived in the cities began to lose their ability to be farmers and hunters, and relied on shops. So yes, it's very similar to that, because Rodan, her entire food source were the pills.
Yeah.
And she said, I have no idea how to hunt for anything. So
yeah, which honestly just still goes right up to today.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even just we live in more of a in suburbia than a city itself, but even still, we're not farmers, so we wouldn't have the faintest idea of how to do that. So it is sort of similar to that, which is interesting. It's an interesting concept to also then show on Gallifrey. So let's see. We had everything with the lead-lined room, so the Vardans can't read their thoughts, and Superman can't see. So it's interesting that it's always specifically lead that does that.
Well, if I recall correctly, lead is a very dense metal, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, so and honestly, once they started explaining that, the whole thing of like, oh, you have to block your thoughts so that they can't read your thoughts and stuff, it was interesting because I looked at the standard Gallifreyan Time Lord helmet that Barusa was wearing, and then it just hit me. It's like, oh, it looks like Magneto's helmet from X-Men, which he specifically uses to block Xavier. So it's like, oh yeah, we'll put a little lead in that. Although maybe putting lead that close to your head maybe is not the greatest idea, but I don't know. So, but I'm sure you could figure out something. I mean, if you had it like lead between something, like if it was between the lining and everything, then that could be more protect. Although, did they know about, this is 1979 at this point? Was lead poisoning a thing?
Lead poisoning's been a thing for centuries. In fact, scientists and historians now believe that one of the reasons the Roman Empire fell apart is because they brought water into the city, not only in the viaducts, but through lead pipes. And of course, over a time, the lead will leach into the water, and it would have caused, especially the upper class, who got to drink water in their palaces and things like that, it would have caused them some mental disturbances.
Yeah, so I guess I was just thinking about like lead paint and everything.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you're right about that. So honestly, that would be weird if they also included that in our sort of Roman Empire. It kind of makes it weird that you've got the Gallifreyans and the Time Lords as sort of this Roman Empire analog in space, and their greatest enemy are Nazis and pepper pots. It's like, it's kind of a weird thing, but obviously they never thought of that. It's that Terry Nation made Daleks, and then they started to figure out what Time Lords were, and that's just how it goes. Yeah. So yeah, let's see. And it's interesting. We have. I'm enjoying more of the side characters on Gallifrey. Like I like Rodan and I like Andred as well. Yeah. It's interesting. It's hilarious because, he's going on this, we have to stop the invaders and everything, and he talks to Leela and Rodan and everything. But then his immediate thought, and probably rightfully so, is kill the Doctor because he's the one who brought this in, not realizing that it's the Doctor's plan to defeat the Vardans specifically. So, but still he's just a good kid trying to do what's right. So, and between them and then the Castellan we had in The Deadly Assassin, I really enjoy more of the side characters on Gallifrey. So, and then another, I guess technically a side character on Gallifrey would be Castellan Kellner, this, Weasley, ambitious guy. Which, okay, so the line of succession for the presidency is if the president dies, it goes to the Lord Castellan. At least that's what he's implying, is that he would be next in line. Which is strange because he seems to just be like, head of security in the Citadel. So you would think that, honestly, it would either they would just do, another election, which they pretty much did that in The Deadly Assassin, or it might go to the Chancellor or to one of the Cardinals before... Which, I don't know, maybe Lord Castellan, he is one of the Cardinals of the Council of Time Lords, but I guess we just don't fully understand the Council and the line of succession. But it just seems odd that it's like, so if he kills the Doctor, he becomes the most powerful man on Gallifrey, because he was... I don't know, maybe if it's like... So let's see, in the U.S., we've got the President, the Vice President, the Secretary of State... No,
Secretary of State is fourth. Speaker of the House.
Speaker of the House, then Secretary of State.
And the thinking behind that is, although the Speaker of the House, for example, the current one is Nancy Pelosi, although she is elected from her district in California, because the Democrats hold the majority for the next 2 months, then you assume majority of the American people who voted for Democrats would then want the leader of the Democratic Party to be in line for the presidency. So, that's why Nancy Pelosi is in front of the Secretary of State.
I mean, and that honestly, I guess that makes sense. So it's because I'm like trying to equate like what would be, I guess, sort of the equivalent position in the U.S. government to the Lord Castellan here on Gallifrey, and I guess we could also, I guess it would make more sense to see what is the equivalent in the British government as well.
Well, in the United States, he would technically be the Secretary of Defense.
Yeah.
In Great Britain, again, because of their parliamentary, what happens is whichever party gets a majority in Parliament, then they elect the Prime Minister.
Yeah. And then they cycle through them, like, every 6 weeks or so. So...
Yeah, that was an unfortunate thing.
Yeah, that was... I mean, like, I don't know. I don't want to, like, spark up British politics in the comments or anything. But just as an outsider... It's just kind of funny to see, without any comment on the politics or anything. It's just kind of funny to see. It's like, well, she was Prime Minister, Queen died, she's not Prime Minister anymore, and that's that. We move on to someone else. So, but anyway, so yeah, it's just, so I guess, I mean, honestly, why is Kellner, next in line for the presidency? Because that suits the story, and it suits his ambition for the story. But logically, the Lord Castellan, it just seems like a strange thing. Yeah. Or maybe he's thinking, maybe it is like, well, he shouldn't be next in line, but going through and taking out all the threats, the Time Lords that could be a threat to the Doctor's regime, could be, you take all of them out, then you get to the Lord Castellan. So...
That's very similar to the Richard III story, the King of England, who had older brothers, and then older brothers' children, and he was like, I don't know, 5th or 6th in line. So he had a plan from the very beginning, according to Shakespeare, to simply one by one eliminate all of the people who were ahead of him, so that when it came time, he could claim the throne for himself.
Yeah, so... and it is honestly funny watching, when the Doctor says, yes, I would like a full list of anyone who could be, all the people that will be reliable, who could be an ally for us during this new time as we bring in our new masters. And I want a list of everyone who could be a threat. And obviously, the Castellan's thinking, oh, well, yes, of course, we have our allies and we have our threats and we eliminate the threats. Whereas obviously it's, oh, these guys would be threats to the invaders. Good, we can use them. I can use them specifically. So it's funny because we know what the Doctor's really doing and the Castellan doesn't. So, and I swear we've seen the actor for the Castellan before.
Yeah.
I just can't think of it. They do that a lot where they will reuse an actor like 3 or 4 times, but I don't know. They'll leave it down in the comments. I'll get something on Twitter showing because probably even if you put the comment, am I going to be able to remember who that character was? That's another question. So, but we'll figure it all out anyway. But yeah, you got anything else?
I got nothing. Again, let me apologize for runny nose and phlegmy cough, and I think a couple of times, unless you will end up editing them out, I actually close my eyes because I'm not getting a whole lot of sleep because, sore throat and sinus pressure and everything. I'm sleeping like 15, 20 minutes at a time and then waking up for 5 minutes and going back to sleep. So anyway, I hopefully will next week be better.
Yeah, so... and now I will see an influx of comments saying that I probably shouldn't have forced you to do it. But this is already after... We were supposed to do this on Saturday, and he wasn't good then. So we could have delayed this a little bit more, but at a point, if I had delayed this like almost any further, we would have just been off for another week. Yeah. So, and we were already off last week. Yeah. So
I'm good.
Yeah, you powered through just enough. I mean, there was a couple of videos. There's one episode of Attack on Titan where I think like the previous night I finally got to sleep at like 4 a.m. and then woke up and it was just terrible. I don't remember what the reason was, but I just barely had any sleep. And then I watched Attack on Titan, which is not something you want to watch when you're sleep deprived. And so I was just dying on the inside. So yeah. So now this was your turn to suffer through that. But we had an interesting episode at the very least. So, but yeah, that is basically it. We'll be back next week for the final 3 episodes of The Invasion in Time. With all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist for all of our Doctor Who classic reactions, as well as another playlist for all of my modern Doctor Who reactions if you want to go check those out. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.